Somalis have always seen themselves as a fabric of this nation.
Y'all just started coming here in 1991 under this TPS. So what part of that is now you're the fabric of the nation? And it's not racist. It's not Islamophobic. It's not any of the insert phobic here. It's not any of those things to say I can see plainly with my own eyes what you guys represent. And that is not the fabric of our nation. We've got to get these terror groups and people associated with them the hell out of our country. Welcome back to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. This will be our final show before Thanksgiving. I hope you and your families have a wonderful and safe and, well, I was going to say warm Thanksgiving, but I don't know. Sometimes here in the state of Texas, I'm like, I want it to be a little bit chillier for Thanksgiving. So just have a wonderful, happy, safe Thanksgiving with your families. So there is an issue that I continue to address because it continues to exist. And I fear that we are not taking it seriously enough in this country. Of course, I'm referring to the Islamification of the entire country, but a lot of which is, let's be honest, coming from Somalia, right? And when you look at the Islamic problem as a whole, okay, well, that's not just Somalians. But when you look at the state of Minnesota, for instance, well, it is kind of a Somali problem. And we've seen it with our own eyes, right? I mean, we see the case of Ilhan Omar, who we'll get to. But this is from the Census Bureau, all right? That, like, very clear where that state is when you're looking at this data. They have come in, they've taken advantage of this system for decades. And it's actually a question that I had. I didn't realize this until very recently, but one of the questions I had is, you know, with all of these ICE raids, which support your local ICE raids, you can buy this cup or shirt or hat or hoodie at saramerch.com because we do support our local ICE raids. And to that point, I'm like, why are they not just going into Minnesota and taking all of these, some of whom are illegal Somalians off the streets? Well, actually, they were given temporary protection status, so they can't be deported back to where they came from because it would be, according to the feds, it would be inhumane to send them back to where they came from. So I guess like we have to just keep them. Okay. Now, when you think about the idea that temporary protected status for Somalia and Somalians started in 1991, that's not very temporary, is it? That if you can point back decades and decades later, that's not very temporary, in my opinion. And so I just would like to, let's look at where we should tackle this problem and how deep the problem gets. Okay. So Donald Trump is now taking steps to end the temporary protection status for Somalians, which, listen, I'm very grateful for. I wish it had happened before Ilhan Omar became naturalized, because when you look at the statistics, 72% of the Somalians who already came in have already become naturalized citizens. So when we talk about, yes, is it great policy to end the temporary protected status for Somalians, for Haitians, for like insert foreign-born national here? Yes, we should definitely eliminate the temporary protected status, especially if that temporary protected status started decades ago. We should definitely do that. But what else should we be doing? I don't want to take our eyes off the prize here, okay? Because at this point, there are only like 700 something Somalis in the entire United States who are currently protected by the TPS, by the temporary protected status. So these people have already become naturalized citizens, which, by the way, we need to completely reform the way that people are allowed to do that so quickly. All right. And when you look at, say, the case of, one Ilhan Omar, she came from Somalia. She doesn't appreciate anything this country has given her. In fact, she uses her position as homegirl literally got a position in Congress. She is now a congresswoman, and she's still bitching about being oppressed, which is like so bizarre to me. Like, girl, you are a member of Congress still complaining that you're oppressed. I just don't think that's the case. And you have people like Ilhan Omar, who are going through the process, who are coming here, who don't appreciate anything this country has given them, even though they've risen to the level that they've risen to, who really don't want to assimilate at all. And then they have the audacity, again, in the case of Ilhan Omar, to go out and say something like this.
Somalis are not terrorizing this nation. We are helping it thrive. Somalis have always seen themselves as a fabric of this nation. So not only are we not going anywhere. Not only are we not going anywhere, we are not going to allow anybody to make us feel less Minnesotan or less American.
Oh, okay. So they're not going anywhere, according to Ilhan Omar, but they are the fabric of this nation. Explain to me, y'all just started coming here in 1991 under this TPS. So what part of that is now you're the fabric of the nation? I mean, the audacity to say such a thing when you don't plan on assimilating. The streets of Dearborn, Michigan, and certain parts of Minnesota basically look like Tehran. That is not the fabric of our nation. It's not. And it's not racist. It's not Islamophobic. It's not any of the insert phobic here. It's not any of those things to say, I can see plainly with my own eyes what you guys represent. And that is not the fabric of our nation. And when you take the audacity, the arrogance in her saying such a thing, I want you to understand how dangerous this is, because over in Minnesota, they have a sheriff who, you'll notice as I play this video, is not speaking English, but says in the native tongue, which is very ugly, by the way, but says that they are here working for Somalians. As Somalian police officers, we work for you, Somalians. We stand for you and serve you. We came to this country as refugees. There were no Somalian police officers. So now that we have been hired, it means we are working for our own people. We understand the culture. We understand the language. We understand the way of life. That's why we are different from foreigners or white officers. We help bridge that gap. Every Somalian police officer, whether you're in the homeland or abroad, works for you, of course, meaning Somalians. When you're asleep at night, we're the ones protecting you, which sounds like a threat to me. That does not sound like a good time. But the point is, how can you be both the fabric of our nation and also claiming we are so separate that only we who come from Somalia can represent you. Only we understand your culture and your way of life and your native tongue. Only we can understand that. Both of those things cannot be true at once. Those things cannot be true at once. And how terrifying is it? I mean, what way of life, what culture, what law will these police officers enforce? Police officers are given a lot of discretion. Okay. And when you have Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara, who stated a fact, some Somalians are actually carrying out crime. He was then forced to, you can't say that. You can't call out criminals these days. Okay. Because if they are the wrong skin tone, if they come from a TPS, you actually have to apologize, which, by the way, looks like a hostage video at this point.
The Somali community here in Minneapolis has been welcoming and has shown love towards me, and I appreciate it.
Look at all of them in the background. Like,
over the last 3 years, we have been working together to try and address some of the real serious problems that we have in our community.
Blink
we
twice.
have to be honest at times with the
if
problems
you're being
that we're
forced to
having
give
in our
this
community,
apology.
and we need our community to help us fix those problems together because it's real and it's serious. At the same time, if people have taken anything that I have said out of context in a way that's caused harm, I apologize, and I'm sorry for that, because that's not my intention at all.
It was not his intention. It was not his intention. It was not his intention to point out that there are real crimes being carried out using Minnesota's taxpayer dollars, like the one that our very own Chris Rufo recently uncovered. The largest funder of al-Shabaab is the Minnesota taxpayer. How some of the state's welfare funds ended up in the hands of a terror group. So when you read this expose, apparently Somalians are carrying out fraud schemes on basically everything from SNAP funds to COVID funds, and then they're funneling that money back to, you guessed it, terror groups, because that's what they're about. Now, one of many examples I could cite for you, autism claims to Medicaid, so in the state of Minnesota, have skyrocketed from 3 million in 2018 to 399 million in 2023. Well, how could that possibly be? It turns out these Somalians were setting up fraudulent autism treatment centers, and they were sending all of these bills, all of these charges to Medicaid, and then they were reimbursed by taxpayers, and then they funneled that money overseas to terror groups. Like, so do you understand why the eliminating temporary protected status does not, like, it does essentially nothing? What else are we going to do to get these people the hell out of our country? Speaking of this issue, President Trump, again, God bless him. I love him. He has done so much. And every single day I wake up and am so grateful that we do not have President Cacklin Kamala Harris as president right now. Like, our lives would be demonstrably worse under President Harris. I'm not trying to will that into the universe by calling her that. President Harris, okay? He signed an executive order, President Trump did, targeting certain Muslim Brotherhood chapters as terrorist groups. But it doesn't go far enough, guys, because when you read the fine print, it's just as this headline says, certain chapters, okay? Specifically, chapters in Egypt, Jordan, and Lebanon, which, by the way, Egypt already designated the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization in 2013. Saudi Arabia did it in 2014. Russia did it in 2003. We're kind of behind the mark here in 2025. And I'm just wondering, why are we only picking and choosing certain like, what about Turkey? What about some of these other chapters? Like, why are we picking and choosing chapters? Why can we not just say Muslim Brotherhood? You know what? We want no bit of it. We want no bit of it. It's a terrorist organization. And if you have certain chapters who are like peaceful, which I completely don't believe is true, then take it up with your other chapters, okay? You guys hash that out. But for now, for us, we don't need to hash that out. We're just going to designate you guys a terrorist organization, and we're going to go on and we're going to feel really good about that. And we're going to sleep like babies at night, because we've got to get these terror groups and people associated with them the hell out of our country. Please, anyone who is around the president, who is advising him, we need to take like 7 more steps tomorrow to rid our country of these people before they do more damage in violent crime and in, of course, as you just saw, stealing from the American taxpayer. All right, make sure that you are subscribed to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Hit the bell. Make sure that the bell is hit for notifications, and smash the like button. It'll help us in the algorithm, which we all know is stacked against us. Send us a comment. Let us know what you think. I want to thank our sponsor before we bring on the panel. I want to thank our sponsor this segment, Craftco. So Craftco makes a wonderful, wonderful, delicious bourbon whiskey. And here's the thing. If you're thinking about, the holidays are coming up, I'm going to have to spend a lot of time with my family. If you're not like really big fans of your distant relatives that you only see a couple times a year, now's the time to stock up on whiskey is all I'm saying. And when you do it with Craftco, with Flying Ace, you know that you are supporting an American company and they make the product with American grains. So go check them out. It's flyingacespirits.com. Use promo code BLAZE for free shipping. That is flyingacespirits.com, promo code BLAZE. Welcome to the show. We have Sean Spicer, host of the Sean Spicer Show and co-host of The Morning Meeting, because I guess you're an overachiever, Sean. You're like, how many shows can I fit into my day? Along with John Doyle, host of The John Doyle Show, right here on BlazeTV. And I am so excited to talk to you guys about this. Sean, I saw you posting on X about this over the weekend. These Democrats who were basically like calling for a military insurrection is what I was gathering from this stupid failed theater kid video that they put out, encouraging the military to defy illegal orders, but like couldn't tell us what these illegal orders were. They could be in some legal trouble because the FBI is scheduling interviews with these 6 lawmakers who encouraged military members to refuse those illegal orders, which they couldn't tell us which ones. Anywho, don't try to make sense of it. It might make your brain hurt. This is Senator Alyssa Slotkin, Mark Kelly, Chris DeLuzio, Maggie Goodlander, Chrissy Houlihan, and Jason Crow. Now, Sean, again, specific to you, you posted about this over the weekend because you had a great catch with Alyssa Slotkin, who none of them can come up with a concrete example. But when Alyssa Slotkin was asked about this over the weekend, what are the illegal orders? This was the mental gymnastics she came up with.
Do you believe President Trump has issued any illegal orders?
To my knowledge, I am not aware of things that are illegal, but certainly there are some legal gymnastics that are going on with these Caribbean strikes and everything related to Venezuela. If you look at popular culture, there's like, you watch, A Few Good Men, like we have plenty of examples since World War II in Vietnam where people were told to follow illegal orders and they did it and they were prosecuted for it.
Wait a second. So the first concrete example that she comes up with is like, well, we know that this happens in the past is a movie, Sean?
Yeah, Dawson and Downey are pissed. Look, she can't, I hate to keep using the puns here, but she can't handle the truth. There's a few things wrong with this, Sarah. Number one, with all due respect, Alyssa Slotkin's never served in the military. So for her to try to explain this at all is kind of ridiculous. She goes on to give an explanation of going to your JAG. I got to tell you, if you're at sea, so let's just say you're on the Ford, you're steaming down to Venezuela, and some petty officer on the deck says, I'm not sure that I think this is a lawful order that we should be going down off the coast of Venezuela. I'm just going to leave, the bridge and go down to talk to the JAG. That's not really how it works. So she, if you're going to, I think this whole thing was flawed from the jump. The idea of Alyssa Slotkin telling people about the Uniform Code of Military Justice, never serving before, trying to explain how you should handle a concern that you have, was way off base. I found it, dubious at best. The idea that none of them could give an example. Maggie Goodlander was asked; she at least is served. To me, and then the weird part at the end was "Don't give up the ship." That's an 1812 War of 1812 battle cry in the Navy, which I was sort of like, "What? This is like dog whistle after dog whistle after dog whistle." Yep. I found it so. I actually found it kind of repulsive. I think everyone who has served understands how you handle questionable orders. We don't need her to tell us how to do it. And to sort of then not have an example to point out really with the cherry on the top of this, to show that it was entirely a stunt from the beginning. But that example with Martha Raddatz, there's so many other things, Sarah. In there she says, I've had National Guardsmen that are serving in Southcom, which is the area of responsibility where the Ford and its strike group are in. I was like, wow, that's interesting. A National Guardsman serving in Southcom on the Venezuelan mission, because anyone who actually has served would say, God, that doesn't sound like any scenario. Mm-hmm. Now, it's possible, I guess, but I'm unaware of any National Guard unit being assigned to Southcom for that right? But you wouldn't expect someone like Martha Raddatz to actually push back on it. And this is, again, part of the complicity of the media, where this thing is so wrong on so many fronts. And yet you have a complicit media that's saying like, oh, there's no big deal here. I think the president was rightly outraged. You're having now the one kicker, Alyssa Slotkin, as I said, hasn't served in the military, but Mark Kelly has, Maggie Goodlander has, the other most, I think there's one other of those 6 that hasn't served.
Has Jason
But
Crow?
one of the dirty little secrets for those people who serve is when you retire, in order to stay in good standing with the military, you have to adhere to certain standards and protocols. And what you've heard now is the Department of Justice has the right to recall a retired officer, if you're still receiving benefits, back to active duty to be investigated or prosecuted under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So, it's interesting that Slotkin herself may not face any choice, because she's a member of Congress and she is a civilian with First Amendment rights. But the other individuals in that video, I think minus one, all have served and under the UCMJ could be called back to active duty, and had, have an investigation about their benefits and whether or not they violated the law.
Which I think should happen. Like I am ready for full accountability. These people have gotten away with all of their antics for far too long, John. And I'm ready for full accountability every time. Now, listen, I realize President Trump was like, punishable by death, ? Or however he phrased it.
Well, no, Sarah, can I just
ahead.
jump in real quick?
Please.
Because this came up on my show, and I just want to be clear. So January 6th was an insurrection, even though nobody was ever prosecuted, okay, for an insurrection, yet everybody who was on the lawn that day. But when President Trump, and go back and look at what he said, not what the media said he said, but what he actually truthed out. He cited what the criminal penalties were for sedition and treason. Right. That's a fact, whether or not those people have committed it. But it's like saying, it's a $50 fine if you go 55 and a 40. That's what the penalty is. And so what President Trump did on Truth Social was list the penalties for crimes that he said he thought these individuals. He didn't say hang them or kill them. He said, here's the penalty for those crimes. Right.
Right. And he's right. I mean, you can't dispute it. I guess the only dispute that you could make, which I'm not going to make, is that this was not seditious behavior, John. But other than that, I mean, you've got these yahoos who, did they really think, like Jason Crow went on Fox News and did he really think that he wasn't going to be asked by Fox News, what is the illegal, or like, what is it exactly? And just come up with nothing. It's like they didn't think this one step ahead through as to what illegal orders they would even point to, because time after time after time, they just have nothing, John.
Yeah, I think they're still very used to a media environment, which is never going to try to hold them accountable for the things that they say. And so, to your point, when they actually are asked to produce a kind of example of what they were even talking about, they struggle to come up with something. And I think even the comparison to A Few Good Men is rather apt, because they really can only understand the world around them in terms of like fictitious popular culture things, because again, the world around them would not actually align with the narrative that they would like to espouse. And so, yeah, they'll either reference a movie like that, or they popularly will reference like Marvel movies or things like that, or The Handmaid's Tale to explain, how they view the world, because absent those things, they just wouldn't be able to come up with anything. And I agree with you. I would like to see things happen to these people, which are very legal and very cool, but just actions which are kind of pushing back on these people in a way that shows them like, look, say what you want to say. Obviously, you're allowed to criticize the president, but these kinds of like moves to inspire disloyalty among the ranks, things like that, ultimately make it harder for the president to do his job and keep the American people safe. Not only should we be skeptical of like what those motives are, we should not reward them. We should actually maybe go after them a little bit, because otherwise they're just going to keep using mainstream media to incite violence against us, to celebrate violence against us when it happens. And again, I'm all for the First Amendment, but we all understand the game that's being played here. And so the question is just like, are we just going to like sit down and take it? it, or are we going to actually like use, again, very legal and very cool means of pushing back against these people when they try to do something like this?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Sean, just how arrogant they've gotten about doing all of these things, trying to prevent President Trump from implementing his agenda, they're just doing it out in the open now, right? Like before you had, as Tulsi Gabbard has just recently shown us, you had President Obama holding these secret meetings with his administration to try to figure out how they were going to prevent Donald Trump from, being elected and taking office. But then now you have judges who are just like, nah, actually, you can't deport illegal gang members back to their home country. No, actually, we're going to keep them here. Like they've gotten so arrogant about just doing everything they can in broad daylight to prevent Donald Trump from doing his damn job, that it's just like, this doesn't stop. It just gets worse if we don't hold these people accountable.
Yeah, there's two juxtapositions. And to go back to the video for a second, because it ties into what you're saying. The reason that they can't cite anything is because Trump hasn't done anything. And to the extent that he has something that they don't think is right, they've gone to court and the courts have ruled with him. That's how the process is supposed to work. I agree with you, don't agree with me, I don't agree with you, we go to court, the court settles it, that's the final word. That's what the Trump administration has done. They have abided by every court ruling. On the flip side, and this is where the big difference is, for all these people who love to crow about the Constitution being under attack and democracy dying, when they believe that they are in pursuit of what they deem the greater good, everything is okay, right? So it doesn't matter that the statute of limitations expired when they were going after Trump. It doesn't matter that they combined a random bunch of misdemeanors to make a fake felony and told the jury that they didn't actually have to find him guilty of anything specific, because it's in pursuit of what they deem the greater good. And that's the one thing about Democrats going back decades now, is that if they believe that what they're doing is what they perceive in the greater good, and they get to define what that is, then it doesn't matter. And that's the thing that's so funny about the juxtaposition that we're at now. They question what Donald Trump does and says, but he abides by the court and goes through the process that we've laid out in our Constitution. They don't abide by the things because they believe that they know better than everyone else, and that, again, they're pursuing this greater good. So as long as they're doing that, kick somebody off a ballot, go after them criminally, make stuff up, weaponize the Department of Justice and the judicial system. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous what they've done. But again, part of this just comes down to the juxtaposition as how they see the world. If I don't like you or I don't like what you're doing, then whatever I do is justified. But if I don't like what you're doing, even though you're following the rules, somehow we're going to say that everything's, falling apart.
Right. Yeah. No, you're totally right. The ends justifies the means for these people at whatever the cost. John, I'll give you last word.
Yeah, I think that that's absolutely right. And I think that at a certain point, we're going to have to figure out what game we're playing sort of as a political project. If, we're against somebody who doesn't respect our rules, want to abide by our rules, or even, acknowledge basic humanity among people who disagree with them politically.
John, I'm going to pick on you for a second.
No, you're not.
Why I am. Why is it that the Blaze just built you a really pretty studio and equipment, and you're sitting against a wall with earbuds in?
And do you want the answer to that question? Because I'll give you the answer to that question.
I don't know. Now I'm kind of scared.
Yeah, you can't handle the truth, because I am not going to let it change me. I'm not going to go stop by hair and makeup and put on my, Barbie Corvette pink blazer and act like all of a sudden I'm all that because I have no, I'm the same guy, for better or worse. I'm not going to let it change me. And, if that means I don't get to continue guesting on the Sara Gonzales Unfiltered program, then so be it.
Shut up. By the way.
I like that. answer. That's truthful, man.
It is.
Don't. You know what? Don't let all of Glenn Beck's money change who you really are.
That's right. See, we need more Catholic representation on this panel. We're already changing it for the better.
That's it.
Which, by the way, John, your shot at my pink blazer is warranted, but I'm heading into Fox after this, and so I have to I always have to look extra presentable whenever I go there. I typically slum it on my own show, but all right, let's go ahead and take a quick break, and then we will be back with more from our panel. I want to thank our sponsor, PreBorn. So PreBorn is I love working with them because it's really, really easy. All I'm telling you is when a woman who has an unplanned pregnancy goes into a Planned Parenthood, they're sold a bill of lies. They're told that it's just a clump of cells. Don't worry. We'll just give you the abortion. We'll suck the baby out of you. You're not going to regret a thing. In fact, you're going to wake up tomorrow morning and be so excited that you made this decision. Obviously, that's not true. And so what PreBorn's network of clinics is doing is just very simple. They're showing these women the truth on ultrasound. They're showing these women this is a human life inside of you, and they're letting them listen to the heartbeat, because in that moment, the woman is twice as likely to choose life. Now, ultrasounds cost money, $28 to be precise. So as we move into this holiday season, if you've got, holiday gifts you need to get, Christmas gifts you need to get, and you're like, this is an adult, they have everything they need, what could I possibly get them? Might I suggest that you get them the gift of life? How many babies' lives can you save? Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 10? Whatever that number is, just know it is money well spent. You can go to preborn.com/Sarah. Help us save the babies over at preborn.com/Sarah. So we talk about it a lot on my show that the Democrats are kind of, there's this MAGA civil war that people like to talk about, but the Democrats are kind of having their own in-party identity crisis. What are you guys? Are you the crazy radical lunatics like AOC and Ilhan Omar, or are you going to be a little bit more moderate like the old school side of the party? And one of the, I would say, more radical side is popping up in Tennessee. This is a Tennessee Democrat congressional candidate, Afton Bain, I believe is how you pronounce her name. But basically, she's batshit crazy. And she is, I would be very, very worried if she actually got elected in Tennessee. So I just want to start. I want to get your thoughts, guys. But I want to start with how she feels about this. Now, this is the city that she would be representing in Congress if she wins is Nashville. And here's what she has to say about the very city she would be representing.
I've been heavily involved with the Nashville mayoral race because I hate the city. I hate the bachelorettes. I hate the pedal taverns. I hate country music. I hate all of the things that make Nashville apparently an it city to the rest of the country, but I hate it. Yeah, I'm that girl at the airport that all these bachelorettes are giddy walking out in their two-toned colored Pantone pink shirts, and they walk out and they're like, oh my God, Nashville is so bad.
They're so loud.
Wow, she sounds lovely. Let me give you one more here, and then I want to get your thoughts, guys. But I've got way more. Let me just give you one more before I get your thoughts. Here's another one of her pushing for training programs to teach women how to do their own abortions at home.
We are really living in a dystopian reality. I tell you, ladies and gents, it's not great. But I want to. What is the positive, if there is a silver lining? So what this does not mean for Tennessee is that groups on the ground will continue to provide training in terms of self-managed abortions. And so instead of going to a doctor, because we won't have any doctors that provide abortions, how do you do it at home?
What could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong, Sean, in a training program to tell a woman how to kill her own baby at home? And these are the people who claim that they are the party for women.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be certified to do CPR. Can you imagine trying to do that?
Right.
I mean, that's really dangerous. But I want to go back to the first video because it's actually worse, so your viewers understand this. Afton Bain is a current state rep. She represents Nashville currently, so it's not just that she would represent that. She actually already represents the city that she hates. I'm going to tell you a sad but scary fact. I have talked to a lot of people in that area. And Tim Burchett, who represents an area just east of that, was on my show on Friday. And I can tell you that the National Republicans are very scared. That's a Trump plus 10 district. And the election is next Tuesday, December 2nd. And Sarah, I'm not kidding when I tell you that there better be alarm bells going off because Mark Van Epps, the Republican, is apparently not a great candidate, not raising a lot of money. But if we were to lose the seat or come up barely, it is going to freak everyone out. She is a horrible candidate, but she has been, her ads are actually really effective when it comes to talking about the issue of the economy and affordability and all this stuff that Democrats keep hammering home. And this should scare the crap out of everyone that someone this nuts that says crazy stuff. This is the Jay Jones of Tennessee, right? And I live here in Virginia, and everybody said there's no way that somebody who threatens to kill a political opponent and wish that their child dies in their mother's arms could get elected attorney general. And he did. Yeah. And so if anyone thinks that, oh my God, listen to the crazy stuff that Afton Bain says, there's no possible way that she could get elected, think again.
Mm-hmm. No, you're absolutely right. And in a city like Nashville, like in a place like Tennessee, I mean, no offense, Sean, but it's like, I definitely thought that Jay Jones could get elected in Virginia, right? But in Tennessee, I mean, if, as Sean pointed out,
Nashville's obviously it's the surrounding county and Franklin and everything that, I mean, Mark Green represented that district prior, and it's like I said, it's a Trump plus 10 district. This is not, but it's an off-year election, right? Because it's a special. Mark Green resigned, which was a pretty weak thing to do. And now we have to run this race. But I'm telling you, as we head into a midterm, if you're putting money into an R plus 10 district with a flawed candidate, you know you have problems.
Yeah, right. John, to Sean's point here, I mean, if that woman wins in a Trump plus 10 district, like, we are in serious trouble. Let me give you one more here, a crazy clip of hers where she said that men can get pregnant, apparently.
We really have an opportunity here in this country to talk about what type of progressive policies we want to see as young women. And I think we have, as birther, as women who can give birth, men and women who can give birth.
John, to Sean's point, like, really? Are we going to do this in a Trump plus 10 district? Like, that's in 2025, where we've come so far. That's terrifying.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you're in a Trump plus 10 district, you're not going to win that district by being like a moderate Dem, because if you're a moderate Dem, then it's like, well, if you're just going to be like a little bit insane, why would I not just go with the person who's going to be like not insane at all? Why wouldn't I just go with like the Republican candidate? If you want to get like whatever Democrats exist in that district to turn out, you kind of have to like take it there. And what tends to excite Democrat voters and aggrandize Democrats is like being insane and being like just very extreme. And not because they really believe that men can get pregnant, but what they like about that is that they know that it makes you upset. That animates them. That is what will get them to actually show up to the polls, is this idea that they're not just voting for like the correct policy, but they're really sticking it to you. They're really making you mad because you are like literally Hitler or whatever they think, about the typical median Republican voter. And so, yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all that like this is this sort of ascendant Democrat class, these kinds of like radicals who are not only being tolerated by the party, but being embraced and who are being successful within the party.
Yeah. Sean, you pointed to her effectiveness at talking about economic issues, the cost of living, the cost of groceries, just the overall economic woes that the average American is suffering. It's something that I have been trying to sound the alarm on to all of members of Congress. Like, guys, what is your plan, and how do you plan to effectively communicate that to everyone? Because this is how you get the Zohran Mamdanis in New York City, is that I trust you way more than the Democrats. But what are you doing, and how are you going to tell the people that? Because they're still feeling it, and it certainly feels like they're trying to ignore, other than J.D. Vance, they're trying to ignore the elephant in the room. And that is, as you point out, Sean, that is how you lose in the midterms. That is how you lose these off presidential year elections.
So look, I ran my first race in 1994. I've been doing this a long time. And one of the things that I think Republicans in particular get wrong is that they think that most people have common sense, and people who generally vote Republican do. People who don't generally vote Democrat, right? So let's just divide it up, call it 40% default. I mean, not obviously it depends on the district, and Tennessee 7 is a little different because of the Republican skew. But if you just took a generic district and you said, okay, 40% vote for Republican, 40% vote reflexively for the Democrat, you got 20% in between. Mm-hmm. And those people, and again, I'm just making this up, but I think that's, sometimes it's 15, sometimes it's 10, but it doesn't matter. But there's a decisive amount. And this gets to what John was saying. Like, she goes out and she jacks up in Tennessee 7, her people, and they're like excited. Like, this woman's fired up. Like, we love this, right? So, and then what happens is she puts out a bunch of fluffy commercials to the folks in the middle and says, hey, look, are you paying too much? Because I'm going to focus entirely on that. And I'm going to focus on, so it's sort of like she makes sure she dog whistles to her base that I'm going to be that crazy leftist that says stuff that is going to be so cool. Like I'm going to be Zora Mandami's, clone in the Congress. But then she puts out, and look, what people misunderstand sometimes about candidates is that a lot of people don't take a ton of time. And so what happens is you see this commercial, right? And it's just all politics is at its base is marketing. And so if somebody tells you that this soda right here is going to be, refreshing, tastes great, whatever, it's not like you ever tasted it, but you're like, wow, that sounds great. I should go buy it the next time I'm in the grocery store. If you think about it in that sense, right? When you buy a new product that, maybe it's a food or a beverage, you've never tasted it. It's the advertising that gets you to actually put your hand on the shelf, grab it and say, okay, I'm willing to try this. And the same thing happens in politics where you see the commercials and you go, what, you know what? I need to save a little bit more money. I'm struggling these days and I'm sitting there and that product tells me that they're going to fix my life. And so they're like, sure, I'll try it. The last guy didn't do a great job or it's not fixed. And so it's a marketing proposition that most Republicans don't fully appreciate, that like for that decisive middle, they're willing to go shop around a little and say, does that sounds like it tastes better to me. And so she has done an effective job. And I think Democrats writ large, I get a kick out of this, Sarah. Just stop for a moment and think about what we're dealing with healthcare. Democrats took over healthcare, jammed Obamacare down our throats, told us we could keep our doctor or keep our plan, that costs would be contained, et cetera, et cetera. It was a lie. Okay. And then they took tax dollars and subsidized it, both without any Republican votes. So the cost started to spiral out of control. And what did they do? They said, great, we'll just take tax dollars, mask that by subsidizing the plan. Then those subsidies ran out. And what did they do? They turned around and said, Republicans don't want to make life affordable. I mean, and we're literally going, wait a second, you took over healthcare without any of our votes. You didn't care what we thought then. Then you subsidized it without any of our votes. And then it all expires and it blows up. And then you point your finger at the one group of people who had nothing to do with it and say it's your fault.
Right.
And right now the American people are saying, yeah, Republicans, fix it.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right on that. And that's something that as a former, I owned an insurance brokerage firm. And this was during Obamacare forced me out of the business because I was like, this is terrible. I actually enjoy helping my clients. This is just hurting them. I don't want to do this anymore. And so to watch them then say simultaneously, the Republicans don't care and the Republicans aren't going to help us fix it, but also at the same time, trust us, even though we're the ones who broke it, is like beyond insane to me. It drives me bonkers. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break and then we will be back with more. But I want to thank our sponsor of this segment, Beam. So Beam has some big news, big cyber sale going on right now. It is live, but only for a limited time. So you're going to get up to 50% off with my code. I know we joke. It says it's Sarah G, but it looks like a Lord of the Rings character named Sarag. It's actually Sarah G. You can grab their Dream for $32.50. That's like $1.08 per night for the best sleep of your life. So go to shopbeam.com/Sarah G and use my code Sarah G. Don't miss out. This is the lowest price it's ever been sold, and it's probably going to sell out quickly. So don't sleep on this. This is an actual American company founded by people who believe in hard work, clean products, and personal responsibility. And they've got no fillers, no synthetic garbage. It's actually packed with ingredients your body needs to sleep: reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and even melatonin. But it's dosed intelligently, not like the drugstore garbage that's going to knock you out and leave you groggy. You can go to shopbeam.com/Sarah G, use code Sarah G, and get up to 50% off during this cyber sale. That is shopbeam.com/Sarah G, promo code Sarah G. Speaking of the Democrats' radical ideology, we had President Trump, who earlier this year signed an order to keep men out of women's sports, but apparently it's still happening because a man just won the title of World's Strongest Woman. This was right here in Texas, and the winner goes by the name Jamie Booker. Runner-up was Andrea Thompson, and she was this is how she, which by the way I would handle the same way. This was how she handled the loss. Look at that beast. Look at that beast. This is bullshit, is what she said. And storms off. Now, it turns out that the official Strongman Games is now disqualifying Jamie Booker following an investigation. They said, we were never aware that he was born a man because there was no place to declare it. And if they had known, he wouldn't have been allowed to compete. And I just I'm looking at this beast and I'm like, did you have eyeballs? Because it seems completely obvious to anyone with eyeballs that this was a dude. And maybe once you saw him, you could I don't know, do a little web search and find out very quickly that this is actually a man. So this is still happening in 2025 in Donald Trump's America, despite his executive order, Sean.
Yeah, well, it's worse, right? So I start hearing about these stories that universities are just reclassifying DEI as the wellness department. I mean, they're doing this all over the place, and they're finding ways to get around these orders by renaming them something else cute. And I think that's the big lesson, Sarah, that the takeaway, which is you see it with your own eyes, right? You saw that and you said, I didn't need to be told that. I didn't need a form to show me it. And I think we need to keep calling it out. And kudos for you for doing that, because part of this is that the left wants to say, see, Donald Trump came in, it's all gone. We're not doing this anymore. And the reality is it still is. And we have to stay vigilant and have to stay, and this is my problem, frankly, with big tech and all these guys who want to erase what they did with a check and say, okay, we'll write a check for $100,000 to a conservative group, or we're going to sponsor President Trump's inauguration, and therefore all is forgiven. And I think that we on the right need to remember who these individuals, who these groups were, who the universities were, who the competitions were, all this, and not just let them, because here's my thing, and this is where I think Republicans, conservatives, everyone in MAGA universe needs to remember. These folks are transactional, and they recognize that Donald Trump's going to be in office for 4 years, and hopefully that they'll wish him away again. Hopefully, but we can't do that. We need to remember that Trump has taught us how to fight, has shown us what we can do when we do fight, and that if we sit back and assume that we won, that they're just going to wait us out and bring it all back and whatever. And so I think the big takeaway in my mind is to constantly be reminding people that this is sort of like, a cancer where you mitigate it, you might slow it down, but you can't just walk away and pretend it's not going to come back. You need to constantly keep an eye on it. And the folks on the left, they're just waiting, and they'll sneak stuff back through. They'll try to bring it on full bore if they ever get power back. And that's where I think that's why I'm saying we need to stay vigilant.
Yeah, I completely agree. In fact, the last time I was on your show, Sean, I was on with Adam Gullett with Accuracy in Media, and I had him on my show to talk about these undercover exposés that they were doing in, not just the public universities, but high schools or middle schools or whatever, public education, where they're still trying to socially transition children, still trying to refer them out to get, their genitals cut off or whatever. I mean, all of this nasty stuff is still happening, John, despite President Trump's, executive order. And I think what really frustrates me about that is, where is Congress to back this up? Because we all know, to Sean's point, we all know the next time a Democrat takes power, God forbid, they're just going to undo all of this, and then we're going to be right back where we were.
Yeah, they don't really like to do anything to help the American people. I suppose if they did, we wouldn't be in this position in the first place. It's to Sean's point, these people are extremely clever. You don't get to where we are now, where everybody believes things that are completely misaligned with reality by not being clever. And we simply have to not only get things back to normal nominally, but staff all of these institutions with enough people to prevent it from ever coming back and metastasizing. There's a saying that floats around that, policy is personnel. That's absolutely true. It's not enough to write down words on paper and then give it to a guy who's fundamentally subversive or even evil, and then have him think darn it, the paper says I can't do this, so I guess I can't do this. That's not how politics works. That's not how anything works, really. I mean, if that were the case, then the Constitution would be perfectly intact, right? But it's because we have people who are completely willing to subvert it, work around it, or whatever. And now, the Constitution still, of course, exists, and we all learn about it in school, but nobody actually abides by it. They're very clever thinking of ways to get around that. And so we just need more patriots in control.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Sean, are you traveling for the holidays, or are you staying at home?
Oh, this is my favorite one. This is the one holiday when we don't travel, and I got to tell you, I love that. I love my Christian holidays, Christmas and Easter, but there's something about Thanksgiving. No presents, and
Yeah.
thank God. I don't want anyone to get any ideas. There should not be any kind of Hallmark Thanksgiving cards,
Right.
or anything like that. So I'm a fan. I love staying home and
That's great.
and enjoying.
I love that. Well, enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday. You as well, John. I'm sure you'll be home in Michigan with the fam.
With your plain wall and not your big fancy studio.
Absolutely right. A humble Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
just like
There
a
you go.
pilgrim.
Thank you, guys.
Take
We'll
care, y'all.
see
Happy
y'all
Thanksgiving.
after Thanksgiving.